honorable members of council, Chief of Staff Washington, Chief of Staff Parikh, department heads, and members of the public. Today is Wednesday, April the 17th, and I call to order the Finance Committee meeting. This evening, there are two budget hearings scheduled, the Parks and Recreation Department and the Law Department. But first, there is one Finance Committee business agenda item that requires review before we dive into the budget hearings. I am Councilmember Michelle Harley, Finance Committee Vice Chairperson, and I will be chairing this meeting this evening. I would like to first start by recognizing members of the Finance Committee that are in attendance this evening by doing a roll call. Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Oliver. Councilmember Bracy. Councilmember Field.
Present.
Councilmember Spadola.
Present.
Council President Congo.
Here.
I would like to also recognize any other council members present by doing a roll call as well. Councilmember Mills.
Present.
Councilmember Cabrera. Councilmember Fields. Councilmember Darby. Councilmember White.
Present, Madam Chair.
Councilmember McCoy.
Here.
Thank you. Next on the agenda,
Madam Vice Chair, this is Councilwoman Bracy. I'm here.
noted, thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is a resolution approving grant funds to the City of Wilmington Parks and Recreation Department, and the sponsor is Councilmember McCoy. At this time, Councilmember McCoy, you can speak to your legislation.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. This resolution is basically a resolution which is going to approve the grant funding to the City Department of Parks and Recreation Department from City Council members of the Community Support Discretionary Funds, which is totaling $8,825 for the skate program event and support for students to attend college tours. So what is actually happened is we have been supporting our Parks and Recreation Department with different events and different activities that we definitely like to make certain that the residents, our youth, the residents of the city of Wilmington could attend. If they do not have the funds, we try to make certain that we take care of that with our discretionary funds. But as we have anything that's over $5,000, we are required to put a resolution through. So that's the reason for this resolution.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember McCoy. Are there any comments from council members? Any comments from our public? Okay, if not, this is a resolution and it does not need to be voted out of committee. And this particular resolution is slated for the April 18th council meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. So at this time, we're going to transition into our budget hearing meetings. Mayor Purzycki presented a proposed budget to council on March 21st. The budget as proposed has 0 property tax rate increase, 9.0 water sewer rate increase, along with 6% stormwater rate increase, transfer of $1 million from the Tax Stabilization Fund to the Neighborhood Stabilization Fund to support the Wilmington Neighborhood Conservancy Land Bank, and $0 use of fund balance. The proposed general fund budget totals $192 million, up $9.6 million. The proposed water sewer fund budget totals $90 million, up $5.5 million. The city does a capital to budget program in even years. The proposed general fund budget is presented has a budgeted surplus of $5.7 million. The mayor shared that the city's unassigned fund balance as of March 21st, 2024 totals $95 million, which $70 million is cash. This budget does factor in costs for the city to do its own ambulance service, which will add 41 new EMS positions and other relevant costs for $4.5 million. This is a proposed budget, meaning that we are a little unsure at this particular time what the actual next steps will be. But hopefully we will know more before WFD's budget hearing on April the 29th. May the 1st, excuse me. It will not be April the 29th, it will be May the 1st. Council is mindful this is a huge undertaking for the city to take on EMS ambulance service, as well as realizing a new administration will be on board in January 2025. The mayor shared his vision for the intended planned use of the proposed budgetary funds. Now it is council's fiduciary responsibility to review the budget, have budget hearings with the various departments to get a complete plan on the intended use of these budgetary funds, and then to have negotiations with the administration on any changes that may be warranted to this proposed budget. By charter, council must adopt a balanced budget, and it shall be the duty of the council at least 30 days before the end of the fiscal year to adopt the annual operating ordinance for the next fiscal year. Council has shared its priorities with the mayor, which are inclusive of public safety, police accountability review board training for the board, neighborhood stabilization funding for the Housing Opportunity Fund, facade program, emergency repairs, aging in place programs, homeowner lease purchase assistance program, citywide beautification for each district, not just beautification commission, which is primarily capital funds, but neighborhood planning council support, education, economic development, inclusive of small minority business programs, and parks, to name a few. Before I turn it over to the Office of Management and Budget, I would like to inform everyone that public comments will be made at the end of each department's budget hearing, and that we look forward to participation from the public as well. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes. If there is any follow-up information during any of the budget hearings, Ms. Bassnight will track and follow up on these particular requests. The budget hearings are limited due to time constraints. I kindly ask if all can be mindful and respectful of time. All budget questions should be of fiscal budgetary matter only and will not be limited based upon time limitations. I ask that if my colleagues have any questions, please raise your hand. It is intended for each department to present, then questions will be slated afterwards. Any public comments will be directed to the chair, and all public comments will be followed up. There is not a question and answer session. If any council members have budgetary requests that are not part of this budget, those requests could be shared amongst our colleagues and with the administration to see if those could be negotiated within this budget. As we all know, everything cannot be included in a budget. A budget is built on compromise. It is not the intent of this meeting to do budget negotiations. Once all budget hearings are completed, then budget negotiations occur. I will now turn over to OMB Nahid Hussain, Fiscal and Operations Analyst, for a financial overview, then followed by Ian Smith, Parks and Recreation Director, and his team for a question and answer session with City Council. This hearing is tentatively slated for 90 minutes. And if any questions, yes, hearing is tentatively slated for 90 minutes. I want to acknowledge Council members Spadola, Finance Chair, Council Member Johnson, and Council Member Cabrera, on Zoom. So before we go into Mr. Hassan coming forth, I'm going to ask if there are any questions from our council members at this particular time. If none, I'm going to ask, do we have any comments coming from the public? Okay, so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hassan, Fiscal and Operations Analyst. Welcome. Okay. All right, there we go.
Good evening, Ms. Chairman, Council President, Council Chief of Staff, and honorable members of City Council. This evening, I'd like to present the Department of Parks and Recreation's proposed budget for FY 2025 on behalf of the Office of Management and Budget. Next slide, please. The FY 2025 proposed budget for general fund and special funds combined is $12.5 million, up $327,000 or 2.7%. Most of this increase is driven by personal services, up around $170,000 or 3%. MS&E is also up $165,000. Total staffing across all funds is 41 FTEs. Next slide, please. The general fund's proposed budget is up $228,000 or 2.1%, with an $88,000 increase to personal services and $148,000 increases to MS&E. Next slide, please. There's a net decrease of 1 FTE in the maintenance division for a savings of $115,000. A labor foreman 2, a maintenance mechanic 4, and 2 senior equipment operators were eliminated. Conversely, 3 new positions were added, 2 general labor 1s and 1 equipment operator. Next slide, please. Personal services rose by a net of $88,000. Regular salaries and pension contribution increased by almost $84,000 because of the city's compensation and classification study. At the same time, overtime increased by $10,000, in large part to cover extended pool and spray park hours and city-sponsored events. Decreases in hospitalization, pension healthcare, and attrition line offsetted some of the major increases in personal services. On to MS&E. Total increase in MS&E is a net $148,000 or 9.5%. Temporary agencies decreased by $98,000 or over 30% reduction due to the addition of the 2 new full-time general laborers previously mentioned. $70,000 was added to contracted maintenance service to hire an additional security guard at William Hicks Anderson Community Center and to hire graffiti removal services for parks. Next slide, please. $50,000 was added to community services account line for homeless support at Christina Park, including resources for homeless adults through the Street Ministry Breakfast Program and enhanced support for displaced and foster youth in partnership with the One Step at a Time program. Bulk chemical increased by almost $30,000 to maintain the cleanliness of city pools and spray parks. Recreational activities increased by almost $21,000 to assist with USA boxing events and girls AAU travel basketball team. NOC and miscellaneous charges increased by almost $18,000. This increase is due to the community's gardens expansion to include gardening classes, maintenance, and to supply fresh produce and fruits to the community refrigerator. Next slide, please. Rental NOC also increased by $15,000 for additional tables, chairs, and portable toilets for city parks and special events. Travel increased by $13,000 to cover expenses of full-time staff attending yearly conferences, professional development courses, seminars, and workshops. Agricultural and landscaping increased by $10,000 to maintain mini parks landscaping in collaboration with community groups and associations. The mileage reimbursement account line for youth, career development, workers, and nutrition program personnel has increased by $4,500. This increase applies to field work, food delivery, and weekly visits. Next slide, please. The special funds, which consist of Parks Assistance Fund, Parks Trust Fund, and Workforce Investment Board, increased by roughly $99,000, or 1.9%. Total MSNE is projected to increase by 2%, reflecting the increases of expected grant amounts. Next slide, please. The main change in special funds is the addition of a new administrative clerk position in Parks Assistance Fund. This addition is to support the nutrition program with a cost of $58,000. That concludes my overview of the Department of Parks and Recreation FY 2025 proposed budget. Before I open the floor for questions, I'd like to thank CJ Jones for doing the hard work of putting the budget together. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ian Smith, Director.
Yes, good evening, Chief of Staff, Madam Chair, City Council. I'm excited to be here today. This presentation is a reflection of what we have done, what we would like to do. One of the things that is missing really is that you will not get a sense of is how much support we've gotten throughout the city in various departments. I'd like to, one, thank the mayor's office for their support and their vision for leading us and allowing us the room to grow. I'd like to thank City Council for their support as this resolution was passed this evening for various programs. OMB, Constituent Services, Cultural Affairs, HR, various programs, people who volunteer in our feeding program. This is a reflection of a lot of people loving the city of Wilmington. So I am excited to do this presentation. Next to me is Deputy Director, future Dr. Melody Phillips. Also tonight with us is Dr. Collins, Shakesha Clark, our new Youth and Families Manager, Ms. Carmen Ferguson, Ms. Val, and Jared Wilmore. All right. With that, I'd also like to say this year we had the honor of receiving 2 awards. One of those awards was given to us for the first time by DRPS, which is Delaware Recs and Parks Services. That award was given for our programming for youth in the city of Wilmington. And I'd also like to mention that we received the second award for Mid-Atlantic Boxing Gym of the Year.
Awesome.
And want to give special kudos to Coach Doug for that and his team. With that said, I would like to begin. All right. So we've taken the opportunity to write out everything, so I will not read every single word, but we'll go through them. But for this one, we'll start with the mission. The mission of the Department of Parks and Recreation to provide comprehensive and quality programming that supports the holistic wellness of the city. This year, we'll have 3 top priorities: the expansion of our community garden, provide more in-depth professional development training for our staff, and our new recreational programs and events, continuing to pilot new programs. Our three top performance measures are going to be participation in our YCD career pathway track, our aquatics cohort completion, and our spelling bee participation. I'll make mention our spelling bee and the cohort were the first times that we did that this year as well.
Thank you, Director Smith, and I want to say congratulations on those awards.
Thank you.
So before we move into our questions, I want to find out if there are any questions from council members. Council Member White.
Is this questions regarding the budget, may I ask? Or is it regarding the presentation?
Excuse me. All right, Councilmember White, we're going to take all the questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Okay, so question number one. So justify the rationale to why the WHACC is no longer a separate division in this budget, since all the costs are now rolled into the Recreation Division, except for debt services cost, and considering that WHACC is the city's only community center and the city's emergency operations site.
Okay, thank you. So this is phase 2 of that merge. Last year, we did phase 1, wherein City Council approved the budget and our organizational chart. So this year was just a matter of bringing together the budget. I will say that there are other line items that were once in Hicks that for operational purposes have been transferred as well. You'll see some of those in maintenance as well. So this is just the second half of what you already approved last year. So that's answer A. Answer B. I don't know if you want to read each one. How do we want to do this?
You respond.
Okay, all right. So the merge organizational chart was also approved by City Council during the FY2024 budget hearing. Both Recreational and Hicks-Anderson have been short-staffed over the past few years. The merge continued to support our efforts and ability to provide services. So specifically speaking, when there was once an executive director position, that position is no longer at Hicks-Anderson, which required the deputy director to do day-to-day operations, and that's not how it should flow.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
B.
So that was B. So C.
C.
So with the historical significance of William Hicks Anderson, share the rationale to merge with recreation. So basically just answered that and why we, if operational purposes was the main reason to join it, join them together or put Hicks under recreation. D, specify how costs allocated for direct services for William Hicks Anderson Community Center programming will be determined if everything is commingled to Recreation Division. So every event, every program that we put on has a budget associated with it, and we would track our budgets how we track them now.
Okay. Okay, so again, we're asking that you hold all questions until the end, and I'm going to encourage everyone to write down the question number and follow as we go along. We're going to move on to question 1A and 1B. A is specify what necessitates the timing of this change to occur now, considering there will be an administration change in CY 2025. Number 2. Bear with me. Okay, sure. Let's see, you have it. All right, thank you. All right, so now we're on question number 2, which is discuss any budgetary plans and costs for the following: A, B, C, D, E, and F. Let's start with A.
Okay, vertical community gardens and locations. So the vertical community garden is part of the new city garden that will be coming to Rodney Reservoir. We also have a garden at William Hicks Anderson Community Center. So those are the two sites that we officially have. B, the community refrigerator. We're excited to be a part of that with Plant to Feed. We do stock some of that with food that comes out of our personal garden, in addition to a grant that we've received. In the Hammock Park, last week, this has been something we've been speaking with Councilwoman Cabrera for about a year and a half now. We had the opportunity last week to go to Haynes Park to investigate whether that is an appropriate site, and I'll be following up with her shortly. But we're excited to be moving forward with that project.
Great. Did you go over D, E, and F?
Okay, so D now. Summer Swim League. So discuss any budgetary plans and costs for the following. The department is looking to implement the second phase of the aquatic cohort to implement a summer swim league. The first cohort was designed to hire more youth as lifeguards, which are widely successful. The second phase will incorporate the potential of a swim league. As we started to work through that, we recognized one of the things needed would be additional lifeguards that we could homegrown. So that is covered in that section. E, annual senior Thanksgiving luncheon at Hicks Anderson. The budget is for the senior Thanksgiving luncheon in partnership with Councilwoman Fields is $3,500, and the funding is in the food line for the Recreation Division budget. The annual Christmas breakfast at William Hicks Anderson Community Center is a partnership with Councilwoman Fields, a One Step at a Time Foundation, Impact for Light, Street Ministries, and others. And we host this annual breakfast. The cost is no more than $1,500 to $2,000.
Okay, so that was question 2. And again, for those that are following and have questions, make sure you write them down and we'll come back to them. So now we're going to go to question number 3. Considering WHACC is the city's only official community center, and it is designated as the city's emergency operations site, can you share how and if this budget addresses adequate resources if warranted for emergencies?
Yes. So A, specify if all cameras are operational for security purposes for both youth and if the site was open as an emergency operational center. All cameras are functioning, all cameras are on. We are in the process of updating our cameras with their functioning and working. This year, I do not believe the center was triggered as an emergency site. There were conversations about the potential for them to be open, but the code wasn't triggered.
Okay.
B, specify necessary security resources. Specify if the necessary security resources have been budgeted for both the front and back entrances. Yes, we now have a walk-through metal detector in the front and back entrance of the building, partially supported by Councilwoman Fields.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to go to question number 4. Given the WHACC and how it is categorized as a safe haven, extended hours site, can you please share if there are any additional budgetary funds to complement this program for the duration of the year to provide city youth with a safe haven year-round?
So currently, no, there are no additional funds. Those funds come to us by the state of Delaware to run our Safe Haven program. It runs from July 1st to September 30th. For historical context, it used to run to December 31st, and it no longer does. But once again, that is funded by the state. B, specify if Safe Haven centers at William Hicks Anderson provides an outlet for youth regarding city curfew. William Hicks provides recreational, educational, cultural programming at the youth during the Safe Haven hours, which is an outlet for youth to engage in safe activities during the city curfew. Part of the process is to list out those activities and to submit those activities to the state. So, yes.
Okay.
Question 4C.
Oh, okay.
Provide a list of the sites On the next slide, please, is the list of the sites.
Okay.
All of these participants, except for MSK, receive their funds from the state. MSK does receive their funds from our budget.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to go to D. Did you cover D as it relates to,
Yes.
okay. So D basically says specify if the city has included a safe haven site for the 6th district, and if so, share the name of the entity and the amount of funds budgeted.
Yes, so the center is called MSK Community Center, and the amount is $22,500.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to question number 5, which is discuss the current vacant positions.
Next slide, please. So current vacant positions: Superintendent of Recreation, Office Clerk 2, Nutrition Program Coordinator, and Physical Activity Coordinator.
Okay,
In addition to that, we also have Maintenance Mechanic 4, Equipment Operator 5, Equipment Operator 4, and Labor Foreman 2. No.
okay. Okay, we're on B. Specify the impact to the department.
Okay, so I think we need to go back one slide. All right, so on this chart, you'll see the positions laid out: vacancy dates, expected fill dates, impact, justification, and residency requirement. Each one of these are not enough qualified applicants applied for the position happened each time.
Okay, I think we covered A, B, C, and D, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so for those listening and following, we're going to question number 6. So can you discuss any proposed changes to positions, new, deleted, upgraded, downgraded, title change, salary change, or appeals?
Yes, we have 2 new, which would be General Laborer 1. There'll be 2 of them. There will be also an Equipment Operator 4 will be new. The 3 that we're deleting is Maintenance Mechanic 4, Labor Foreman 2, and Equipment Operator 4.
Okay. All right, we're going to move forward to question number 7. Can you discuss the budgetary costs for all city pools per site, Eden, Brown, Prices, WHACC, and PS?
Yes. On the next slide, you'll see all of the costs are listed out. Eden Pool, $45,000. Brown Pool, $45,000. Price is $45,000. PS DuPont, $28,000, and Hicks Anderson, $100,000. Our only indoor annually operated pool. On 7A, lists our current functioning spray parks. Father Tucker, Helen Chamber, Brown Park, Woodlawn Park, Rodney Square, and Mack Park are where our current spray parks are located.
Okay. B.
So B is a list of our sites, our locations for our pools, the address, phone numbers, and the hours of operation that we're expecting to keep this year.
C.
Okay, so this is basically a chart here with the information. So specify when the pools will be open and the date. So we are looking at, hold on, this is not here. Okay, June 24th to August 16th will be the the days that we'll keep the pool open. It has been practiced to extend the pools to September. We typically start off with a closed date there, but it's
Okay.
not uncommon for us to extend the season based on a recommendation of the administration.
Okay, all right. And can you specify any revenues collected for other entities using the city pools?
Yes, so on this chart here, you'll see 3 entities that currently use the pool that are charged: Greater Philadelphia Underwater Hockey League, Tower Hill School, and Wilmington Friends School.
Okay. Yeah, I'll come back to that question with the numbers being so different. But I'll come back to it. Okay, so we are moving right along to question number 8. Can you discuss the planned use of 1.2 million budgeted for temporary salaries? Starting with A.
Okay. Yes, so FY25 will, hold on, excuse me. I'm gonna ask I want you to help me. Yes, I'm gonna ask the Deputy Director to support me with this one, please.
Sure.
So the 1.2 million budgeted in temporary salaries includes our youth workers for both the academic year and summer youth programming. We anticipated in FY25 that we will have 175 youth workers at approximately $371,000. During FY24, we had approximately 175 youth workers at $336,000. And so that includes the academic year as well as year-round programming. That will show an increase from what we did last year during summer youth to what we're doing currently for this upcoming summer, which would include FY25.
Okay. Okay.
B. And then on B, where it says specify the amount of grant dollars anticipated for summer youth for FY25, amount received, and the anticipated number of summer youth jobs for city residents versus non-city residents. For FY25, our Department of Labor grant will total $250,000 and $168. We have received that award letter from the state. We're anticipating about 72 city youth workers and 24 non-city. That's about 75% from the city and 25% non-city. Bank of America, which is for our academic year-round programming, usually funds about 52 youth workers at about $100,000.
Awesome. Okay, so C.
Specify if any consideration for a youth entrepreneurial program to augment the Youth Career Pathway program. So our Youth Career Development Program offers an internship track which provides 75 youth with the opportunity to participate in specialized career pathways with nonprofits and corporations. So they have an opportunity to connect that to their school career pathway. Additionally, we are offering youth the opportunity for this summer, the opportunity to pilot a new project. We are encouraging our youth workers to actually facilitate the weekly workforce development training that they would normally receive from our staff. So we're going to have a specialized cohort of about 6 youth. Those 6 youth will work with our summer youth counselors and our program supervisors, and they will then become the facilitators to their peers.
Awesome. All right. D.
Specify the number of career pathway jobs and correlating costs. There are about 10 career pathway tracks over the last few years. That total jobs is approximately 80 youth jobs with a cost of about $140,000. That $100,000 of that $140 is from Bank of America.
Great. And lastly, D. E.
This, specify the number of corporations. So for FY25, we will have Bank of America. Previously, we had 2, but JP Morgan Chase said that they may come back around in another year, but Bank of America will continue to fund.
Okay. All right. So that wraps up all of question number 8. So we're going to move into question number 9 for those that are watching. Can you discuss the planned use of $272,000 budgeted for professional fees pertaining to consultants and temporary agent cost?
Yes. So you'll have four categories. Administration, admin will be for consultants as needed to create community-based programming. You'll have maintenance, which is decreased on the approval of hiring 2 new full-time general laborers. 4,500 for William Hicks Anderson Recreation is for Safe Haven, aquatic certification, professional contracts, life skill education, and our track and field timing contract. And Youth and Family Services, it's YCD presenters, our Digicon website maintenance, and our staff training, and our SAT prep sessions.
All right, and again, for all council members and those that want to share public comments, we're asking that you keep track of the numbers. And we just completed number 9. And now we're going to question number 10. Can you discuss the planned use of $163,000 budgeted in overtime and the mechanisms in place to keep it within budget, considering FY 2022, 2023 actuals exceeded the budget and FY 24 is trending to exceed the budget?
Yes. As mentioned earlier, we do have some staffing shortages. In addition to, there are responsibilities of Parks and Rec that isn't a part of our normal budget, but we are responsible for it. For instance, events going on Saturday, special events by either other departments or from the people wanting to use our parks can have an effect on our overtime. So that is why we're asking for that.
Okay. All right, we're going to move to question number 11. Can you discuss the plan used for $415,000 budgeted in miscellaneous services, which is up $108,000 over the prior year's budget?
Yes. So the graffiti removal is for our maintenance division, and they have a contract with a vendor that provides a more comprehensive package than the one that Constituent Services uses. Our package allows us not only to power spray, but also to repaint what has been removed from that process. B, specified programs allotted and the budgetary costs per program. That is on, I don't know how you want to do that.
Slides 37 and slides 45 and 47.
Okay, so extermination fees, there's no change in there. We also have our repairs to our fleet, equipment, and community garden, our contracted maintenance services, additional security guard for William Hicks Anderson. There will be one at the front and at the back to match the walk-in security metal detectors, and recreational activities, as we mentioned earlier, boxing and AAU girls basketball.
Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to question number 12. Can you discuss the $180,000 budgeted in the miscellaneous materials, supply, and parts and equipment account grouping, which is up $18,000 over the prior year's budget?
Yeah, well, some of them, there are no changes, parts and Christmas lights, small tools, there were no changes there. Where there was an increase, our mowing agreement, our senior luncheon,
Okay.
and our pool supplies.
Okay. All right, question number 13. Can you discuss the planned use of $194,000 budgeted between rentals and contracted maintenance account lines, which is up $16,000 over the prior year's budget?
Okay, so that's broken into 3 of our divisions, maintenance and youth and family services. For maintenance, that's to coach buses, rentals for William Hicks Anderson, camp trips, and Parks and Recreation community trips. And for youth and family services is to cover kitchen repairs. The bulk of that is in maintenance.
Okay. Question number 14. Can you justify the plan used for $77,000 requested in the equipment account grouping? You can answer A and B.
So equipment will be upgraded yearly based on our inventory check. And A and B, a new gym floor is typically covered under our capital project. But we initially looked at it, and so yeah, that'll be covered under our capital project based on the expense.
Okay. All right, we're on question number 15. Can you discuss the planned use of $74,000 budgeted in community activities, which is up about $53,000 over the prior year's budget?
Yeah, so specify the name of the programs and how you measure the success of the program. So A, street ministry food programs. This program provides a hot breakfast, mental health services, and substance abuse services to displaced adults every Saturday morning, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Also, One Step at a Time Foundation is covered under that budget. B, for the unhoused in Christina Park, share what additional resources the city will offer to assist this budget. In this budget, Parks and Recreation will continue to work with WPD, Department of Health and Social Service, Public Works, and other agencies to provide resources to residents who frequent Christina Park where their support system is. Additional resources will be identified to support. One specifically is 1 in 7 Billion, which is an organization that provides a trailer that allows people to have a shower, in addition to a washer and dryer to wash their clothes. And there's also clothes if they would like to get some donations.
Okay, that's great. We're on question number 16 now. Can you provide an update on all parks and recreation programs and the participation levels for the last 2 years? And you can answer A, B, C, and D, and just announce each letter.
Okay, so next slide, please. So this is a listing of all of our activities. The next 2 slides are a listing of all of our activities and the cost. I won't go through all of them, but I'll mention flag football. William Hicks Anderson won the championship. I'll mention track and field. Young man broke the high school high jump record out there. I'll mention our first time ever in the city, I've been told, doing our spelling bee, which saw residents who had never come into the neighborhood of Hicks Anderson coming through those doors. And it's also going to be expanding throughout the state based on partnerships and asking Parks and Rec to go throughout the state with this. We had 420 residents come to that, children and parents come to that event. Let's see here, youth and city government, I'll mention that because that's coming up and you all may have seen an email. Our food mobile pantry, extremely successful. 2,095 residents received food from our operations with the food bank, and we're really appreciative of that partnership. So community garden, we're going to be running again. Street ministry, these are all things that we mentioned. Summer camp, we're excited about that starting again. This year, Department of IT has paid for one of our program partners. And this is, yeah. And the most important thing to mention, to be aware of with all of our programs, they're free. So as we talk about the boxing program being Mid-Atlantic Gym of the Year, it's free. When we talk about our new martial arts program, it's free. When we talk about our Lego program, it's free. So the important thing to bring up is that all of these programs are free.
Okay.
And I don't know if you want to go to question 17.
So, hold on 1 second. So we covered D is already? Under 16? sorry.
There's no D on 16.
16, okay. Maybe it's not in your presentation. Excuse me for 1 second. Is it up here? Okay, we'll do a follow-up with that one. We're going to go to question number 17. Provide a summary report per district, update status for each park. For an example, status of any park renovations, playground equipment, etc.
Yeah, so our projects are listed out on this chart here. I'll make mention to current demolition that's going on at Rodney Reservoir. We are preparing to get started at Mack Park. We are currently in Helen Chambers working through that. But you'll see Canby Park, we just received funding for Canby Park, so we're working through that process. We're doing some work at Clifford Brown Listening Garden. Johnston Park is another park that we recently, 2 weeks ago, met out there as part of a potential partnership with Public Works to restore that park as well. But here's the listing of parks, and I'll wait to the end if there's a specific question about a particular one. I will also make mention that Hicks Anderson, we did just replace our pool pack, which was critical with operations of the pool working. That was a major thing that needed to be done.
Okay. Let's see here. I guess we can go to question number 18. Basically, what we have here is, can you provide your FY 2025? You've provided your organizational chart with the total number of employees, permanent, temporary, contract, and vacancies. If there are multiple divisions, can you ensure there are sub-org charts that enumerate all the above? It looks like you have the one chart here. Did you want to add any comments about the organization chart?
No, I think we've covered all of the vacancies that are on there, and no additional information.
Okay, so we have concluded all of our questions, and I want to say thank you for putting all this information together. I know it was quite a bit, but you definitely answered each one. It was, kind of a lot of juggling up here trying to keep up with it all, but thank you for touching base on each one. So at this time, I'm going to open it up to council members. I know Councilmember White has a question, and if there's any other council members that have a question, please raise your hand. Councilmember White.
Yes. Yes, Madam Chair. I just want to, if we go back to question 10 regarding the trending budget items exceeding the budget. I noticed in a number of the budget that seems to be the norm. Well, not the norm, but at least in the ones, if I'm looking at the line item 101, 291, 53408. And again, just for conversation, it seems that in the prior years, there seems to be an exceeding of that budget amount. And then the next budget year seems to be a lower amount, possibly ignoring the trends of the previous year. So I guess, not getting into the weeds, but if we look at the bulk chemical, maybe you can help me on that. If we look at the original budget year, you budgeted 20K, right? And your actual was 25. Okay, so then my next budget year, you're budgeting 31, and the actual was 48. And so what is the thought process that I just may ask goes into a category like that, where if you see a trend over the last 2 years of exceeding the budgeted amount, what's the thought mechanism regarding your objectives in the next year?
Well, you first want to find out were there some type of environmental causes to that, right?
Right.
Find out what were the situations that may have caused those spikes. And then how likely is that to happen again? You know, so I'm trying to find exactly the line that the number that you just said.
There's a couple. One is 101-298-53408. And I'm going to ask the same question on 101-291-53502. And that wraps up my questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I want to acknowledge Councilmember Fields, Brigida Fields, and I believe Councilmember McCoy has a question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So actually, I do apologize. I was I was driving when I was listening, so I didn't recall exactly what number question it was. I think it was closer to the beginning, maybe number 6, and it talked about the funding for the Safe Haven program. So everyone besides the MSK is actually funded by the state, which is something I'm well aware of. And actually, I brought that information to the city. But it stated that the funds were actually coming from ARPA. And so from my understanding was that basically all of the ARPA funds are pretty much encumbered. So I wanted to know why the city actually, when the city normally puts up that funding, why is it coming from ARPA? That was one. And then second, are we able to switch that funding out? Because I do realize that ARPA is a drawdown. So that's 2. I'm like, whether or not we can switch it. Why is it coming from ARPA? And then if we can switch it.
If I may.
Chief
Yes.
of Staff Washington.
The funding for MSK is coming out of the general fund. It's not coming out of ARPA.
Okay, so I guess I was, did I mishear or did, I swear that that's what Director Smith has said. But
No.
thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
No.
The next question I did have, if I can follow up, was the fact that the Kosciuszko's Park spray was not mentioned, I don't believe, when we talked about the different spray areas and also the different pools. And I just wanted to know whether or not, was it not mentioned because we're about to do some construction there, or it just was an oversight?
So Judy Johnson and Kukusko, we took them off right now because we do want to look at them again and make sure that they're functioning. And we didn't want to set an expectation that they will absolutely be up and running. But we'll be able to follow up with you.
Okay, thank you, and I do hope that we get a chance to follow up. Thank you.
Thank
That was what I had for now.
Thank you, Councilmember McCoy. Councilmember Spadola.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening. So first off, congrats on having your overall departmental budget be not increased more than 3%, even below it. So almost less than inflation. Well done. I know it's not as simple as that, but just as a top line number, I always appreciate seeing that. Secondly, occasionally we'll exchange emails. Generally, it's me responding to a complaint about a lack of cleanliness in the parks. And I did notice on the first slide with the mission, vision, and the top 3 performance measures, there was no mention of the importance of clean parks. So 2 things. One, can you talk about where parks puts the importance of clean parks? And 2, what in this budget can I sleep better about tonight, knowing that the parks are going to be even cleaner next year? And if I could just add a comment in before you get to those 2 questions, because when I think about the role of government at a bare bones level, police, fire, trash, and so whenever I get a complaint about trash in a park, or the most recent one, I was at Haynes Park. It was on a weekend. I know it's tougher on weekends, but it was unusable, which is sad because it's beautiful equipment. But anyway, so if you could enlighten me the importance of clean parks and to what in this budget can assuage some of the city people who have reached out to me about trash in the past. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question. Well, one, we're still under the mayor's goal of having parks cut in 7 days. So we're still under that. We removed that as a priority because we've had it there previously, and we thought, why not go for another priority, right? So we still have that priority. It's not gone. We just wanted to list 3 new priorities that we'll address this year. In terms of park cleanliness, staff does an amazing job to identify areas that need to be addressed multiple times. But I also want to say this, depending on when you're seeing that trash, there could be multiple social reasons why that's happening. For instance, I've gotten calls on a Thursday, Friday, say the park is trashed. What they don't realize is school was out and children were home. So that increases trash. But more than me trying to identify why a park can look away at any particular day, I want to stress our 311. It is a tool that we have, and we're working through that. So when you do see something, I'm encouraging everyone to please use your 311. That allows us to be, to know, it allows the residents to be a part of this process, and it's also monitored by the administration. So we're still on our path, and we're still working through the objectives that we had before. Part of that as well, part of what we're asking for in terms of the ad for employees is to address some of that cleanliness as well, adding an extra crew to be able to maintain some of that trash that you're talking about. But there is no chronic area of the city that we are getting constant complaints about.
Yeah, I will say I have not received a complaint in months, which I am happy about, but it is, once a quarter, I probably get an email about it or see it myself. So thank you.
Thank you.
Director Smith, when did you start cleaning the parks? And two, is there a set schedule?
So I don't know how to answer that question, but the parks are cleaned every day except for Sundays. They're cleaned on Saturdays when there are these special events that can trigger overtime for us that we are out of our control. So if there is a birthday party, special event, we're going to clean up that day as well. Outside of that, we have our regular rotation. The city is divided into 4 parts, 4 crews, and they have their section. I believe they see each section twice a week, and then there's a special day for any special pickups.
Okay, so it's year round.
Oh, yeah.
It's year
Oh,
round.
yeah. Year round,
Okay.
year round.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Councilmember Fields.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me. Good evening, everyone. I have a few questions. I'm gonna have them written down. Bear with me.
Mhm.
So, what is there a security in the morning at William Hicks Anderson Community Center?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me from what times?
So we have security. The building opens up at 6, and we have staff available at 6. At 11 a.m. Well, let me say this, right? So right now we're back down to 1 security guard, but we had 2, and we're about to put a second one back there. And so at that point, the building the staff from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., 2 different shifts from the front and the back. Currently, in addition to the security guard that we do have a WPD officer who is in the building in the evenings as well.
Okay, thank you. My second question, the computers in the computer lab, are we looking to update them or find a partnership where they might come in and be able to give us some more desktops or maybe laptops?
Yes. We've had a few conversations. They have not gone anywhere, but I also mentioned again IT department in purchasing our I guess 85-inch Surface that we do use for programming at the center currently. Yeah, but we're working and speaking with a few people to try to replace those. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My third question, the acoustics in the gym. Did you talk about that?
I didn't talk about it, but we have analyzed it, looked at it. We have a few quotes that were brought in to so that we can figure out how we want to attack the audio in the gym. A complete fix would be quite expensive, to be honest with you. Yeah, you're talking in the 6 figures.
I thought it was. I thought we were trying to look at something a little bit cheaper. Another question is, Madam Chair, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, may I continue?
Yes.
Thank you. My next question is the boxing room upstairs. Are we, I know there's talks about, renovating it or doing some, updating to the gym. Do you have any, um, like, is there any money allocated for that?
So we've currently replaced a few equipment. We've repainted the boxing gym. There is a level of authenticity that we want to keep there, but one of the other things we do want to be able to do is to put an additional boxing gym in there. Councilman Mills has supported with purchasing 3 bikes currently that we're waiting to come in. So that's the difference between equipment and also some infrastructure repairs that's up there.
Madam Chair, may I continue?
Yes.
To inform others about the great programs that you have at Hicks. You're doing a really good job with putting it on the internet, your 2-minute drills, the information when you come into Hicks, it's there, it's available. But what about that? It's a sign, the sign that runs the information all the time. It was a sign on this, I think it was on the front of Hicks, right by that flagpole. But it was on the building. Do you know what I'm talking about? What is those signs called?
Ticker tape signs?
Where it just, you can put any information from a desk and it'll pop up. It'll just keep running.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's the sign I'm talking about.
So we don't have that sign on the outside of the building any longer, but we've used that 85-inch screen that I've talked about when we do have some people, other programs and events going on in the center to do some advertisement. We do have another television in the center that we were trying to get retrofitted to be able to run signs on there. So we do advertisement, as you mentioned, and we are looking to increase ways to let everyone know what's going on.
Okay, is there a particular reason why that was taken down?
Well, I'm familiar with what you're talking about, but since I've been director, it was not on the outside of that building. I recall seeing it, I think.
Right. Okay. One more question, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Jenny Weaver Park, is that in Jenny Weaver's Park, is that in any of your the budget for it? Is it for next year, or is it something that we can look at this year? I know we had a small discussion about it. I just didn't see it on anything.
So we consult with the administration on all capital projects, so we would look to them for any directions. Obviously, if there are small items, we do make those repairs. I believe we recently replaced the benches in there, and there's a few other things that we're looking at. I think we added a new dog pickup station in there. So there are small things we've had done. Any major renovations, we'd run that through the administration.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you very much for answering all my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank
Good
you.
job at Hicks, everybody.
Thank you. Council, any other council members have a question? Chief of Staff Washington?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Ms. Bass Knight?
Can we just go back to question number 1? Because I just want to make sure that we're interpreting this right as far as the Hicks Center. So as far as merging the Hicks with recreation, that's actually occurring in 2025 budget. It didn't occur in 2024 because you're moving all the costs now from the recreation, from Hicks to recreation. Because even if I go back and I look at last year's PowerPoint slide, your org chart, you have your youth and families division, you have your maintenance division, you have recreation, and you have Hicks. Even if you look at your PowerPoint slide, question number 17, you still have everything separated out. It's not like under one. But I'm just pointing out that it's really occurring this year. It didn't occur last year. Okay, and that was, I mean, and the reason I'm saying it is I don't recall like a discussion before the council regarding that either, unless there was offside commentary. I just want to just point that out so that council, I know, so.
So I could
Okay.
double check, but I'm pretty sure last year when we did our presentation, the organizational chart had the superintendent over recreation and Hicks. So it said Hicks, but that superintendent was over recreation and Hicks. So that happened last year. And so in terms of operations and who reports to who, that's the major piece, right? And so that already happened. Now, we've had some challenges with that position and filling that position. So the deputy has been serving in that role, but the superintendent, the Hicks Anderson and recreation would all report to the superintendent.
Okay, and Madam Chair, and I'm not questioning like the org chart from last year, but the actual costs and stuff is happening in fiscal year 2025.
Oh, yes.
It didn't happen in 2024. So, I mean, they were still separate divisions. So it's really happening this year. It really didn't happen last year. I mean,
The financial part, I see it as two parts. One is operations, who are you reporting to, and how we spending the money. So the spending of the money, we're asking to bring that together this year.
Right, and that's what the
Yes.
council is approving, like the appropriation authority, and I just want to make sure council was aware of that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Phase 2.
All right, okay,
Yes.
thanks.
Thanks for the clarification.
Councilwoman McCoy.
Yes, Councilmember McCoy?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I actually just remember something that was stated. Parks and Rec is now taking over the removal of graffiti. Is that a new thing, or did I miss out on that last year? Just let me know a little bit more about that.
No, we've always done some removals, and then some have done by constituent services, depending on the level of the cleaning that needs to be done.
Oh, I'm sorry. So when we are contacting, 311, of course, and we're believing it's constituent services, it's been mostly Parks and Rec. Like, tell me what degree of Parks and Rec is involved with graffiti removal.
So when someone says there's some graffiti, they will call constituent services, or depending on where it is, if it's in the park, actually in the park, on a backboard, on a bench, they'll just call Parks and Recreation, and we'll move forward on taking care of that. If it's a light job, we can go through one route and taking care of it. But if it causes a removal of the painting of the building or the chair or whatever it originally was, our contract requires that company paints it back, puts it back to its original state. Most of the jobs that constituent services is doing does not require painting to be done or removal. So I give you an example. Our new skate park was so heavily tagged that if constituent service had done it, it would have started to remove some of the concrete. It had to be done in a specialized way to preserve our new skate park. So that is the reason for the two different contracts and what triggers which one we're going to go with.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification as well. Councilmember White?
Yes, Madam Chair, and I can take this question offline, the answer. I'd like you to educate me a little bit about your FTEs in the general fund as opposed to your special funds FTEs.
Oh, yep. So, there are you, Councilman White, are you specifically speaking about the new positions or just in general?
Well, so the back end to my question, there's a overage of those in the budget related costs. I just don't know which one of these percentages attribute to what percentage of that overage, if any.
We'd love to be able to come back to you offline.
Yes, you
All
can
right,
get
thank
that question. And one last question.
Okay.
Do we have a dog park?
We do not have an official dog park, no, but there has been something turned into an unofficial dog park.
I'll take that answer offline too.
All right.
Because I only have an official dog. I don't have an unofficial.
We do not have an official fenced-in dog park in the city of Wilmington.
Well, thank you.
Yet.
Yeah, I know Councilmember McCoy. Do you want to chime in?
No, I just wanted to make sure that I said yet at the end of that,
Oh.
because I do expect to have something soon.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank
you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember White and McCoy. Real quick, under major funding changes, you had mentioned under community services, it's homeless support in Christina Park. So what kind of services? That's really exciting to me.
Well, the whole idea of this effort started with Tom Ogden having a conversation down by the train station and addressing the unorganized way that good-hearted people are trying to support and the chaos it was causing. And so the plan was, let's try to bring this support down to Christina Park. So this is an effort that is maybe a year and a half old in terms of organizing this. So it started with us going down there and talking to people, finding out who are you, what do you need, how can we be of support. Maintenance speaks with people, just talking to them. But like I mentioned, so far we've had that one in 7B, which was the trailer coming in. That was a partnership not only with Parks and Rec, but Public Works had to participate in allowing access to the fire hydrant. But we're still working through that. We're still
Okay.
working through that. But one,
One Step at a Time. One Step at a Time Foundation is a nonprofit who has a contract with the state of Delaware to provide programs, activities, and events to youth who are in foster care, and many of them who are displaced. And so they partner with us and they bring the youth to William Hicks Anderson Community Center. And when I say bring, they are members of William Hicks Anderson Community Center. We just didn't realize how many youth we had that were in foster care, so One Step at a Time helped identify that. So because they don't have their own community center and the youth, they are our babies, then One Step at a Time steps in and they start providing the activities there. We provide transportation from the motels and hotels that they're displaced in to William Hicks Anderson Community Center so they can participate in the Ingenuity Block programming, as well as get an opportunity to go to some of our community trips that they hadn't been able to participate in before. One of those was our HBCU night at the 76ers in Philadelphia, and so that was really exciting. And also, it's 2 young people running that organization, so we're always super excited to partner with our young people who are trying to give back to their community.
Wow, I'm glad I asked that question. I mean, when you look at that, that's powerful what you just shared, but when you look at it here, it just looks very general. So thank you, because, of course, I'm representing that area. I always get a lot of questions, what is the city doing? And now I can tell them.
and Councilman White, those were the babies you saw, some of the babies you saw skating.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Still no official dog park though, right?
It's coming.
That's great. That's great.
Okay, before we go to public comment, I'm going to call on Councilmember Fields. I think that's it. Anybody else? Any other council members? Okay, Councilmember Fields.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a question about the lighting. I know that you and I had spoken about an incident, about a light that was messed up over there in Cool Springs Park, and we were waiting for Delmarva to come fix it. Do we have how is that connect? Well, for money reasons, is there a way like we have a better connection with them so we don't have to wait a long period of time as if we were just constituents calling to ask for a light to be put up? Because that it is in the park with the kids, and it was a safety issue.
Well, we've reached out to them a few times, and I would welcome working with you to see if a different approach would produce a different result. But so far, we've reached out to them, and we're waiting for it to happen.
I can escalate it to their government relations person.
Okay.
But they have been really under the gun with the LED light conversions, and a whole host of other things that they're doing. So it's
Okay.
it's been difficult
Okay.
trying to get a response, quite frankly.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Field. Okay, Councilmember Cabrera, after Councilmember Cabrera.
Thank you. I just didn't really have any questions. Just wanted to make a comment. Want to thank the director, the team, the great work that they're doing. You go through the parks, they're clean, secure. Good job. Met with the director the other day. We are planning our long-awaited hammock park over at Haynes Park, working out the details. So just want to say that, you know, it's great that we're doing all these programs. Also, the garden that they're going to be starting this Friday for Earth Day with the neighborhood association over here, Harlan Park Association. You know, I'm just glad to see that we're supporting community groups as they're engaging in our parks. I think that garden that they're building over there, a pollinator garden, is going to be wonderful. I'll invite the public to come out. So just want to comment on the great work that you guys are doing, and just to let our council colleagues know, we are moving forward with this hammock park. Make sure that we support it and that we get out there, and that the administration does not forget. Director, do not forget my hammock park. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cabrera. And I ditto everything she said as it relates to all the great work y'all are doing. Whenever I call Parks and Recreation, there's never, well, I don't call anymore, but when I used to call. But y'all are doing great work. Thank you to all the council members. And now we're going to go to public comment. I believe we have Brandon, Team Brandon.
Hi, sorry about that. My Zoom is connected to my work, so it's listed as something else. But my name is Brandon Fletcher. I want to thank you, Director Smith, and Deputy Director Phillips for your work serving the youth and making parks and public spaces better for our communities. It's been really informative to sit during this budget hearing and hear what activities you guys have, especially around making our community centers safe havens. I think, you know, we should explore expanding those programs. But I did want to comment more towards the 74,000 that was budgeted in communities activities in question 15A for the unhoused population. I think it is really good to hear that Parks and Rec is working with DHSS and Public Works in that area. I also would encourage the city to take a look at, in the 5th district, underneath I-95, there is a large population of homeless people. Last year, I was out there with community members, Dr. Mason, as well as the behavioral health unit from Bethany Hall Long's office, to try to help provide assistance to the people who were going to be swept underneath I-95 in the 5th district. You know, every year, local governments, not just here, but across the country, are spending millions on sweeps to clear these homeless encampments, and they become the default reaction to the most extreme outcome of the housing crisis and affect so many communities. And to encourage the city to, you know, take a housing first approach, you know, to provide stable, affordable, and accessible housing to people experiencing homelessness quickly and without prerequisites, and ensuring that voluntary supportive services like One Step at a Time, which is great, are being offered to help improve housing stability and well-being. When residents are stably housed, they're better able to achieve employment, recovery, and improve health outcomes. Sweeps displace unhoused residents without addressing their individual needs or providing support to help them obtain housing and remain housed. And as people are displaced from location to location, they lose critical property like government-issued IDs. Sometimes they fall out of contact with service providers and case managers and suffer deep distress or other health consequences. Additionally, it becomes harder for local government staff to even build trust and connect people to shelter and permanent supportive housing. And so I just encourage the city to really take a look at, not just in Christina Park, but some of the other areas along the I-95 corridor, where we're seeing a lot of investment now with the cap going towards to address the issue of homelessness. And I just want to thank you again for your work. And it's really good to hear that you're partnered with 1in7B to help the process of getting people rehoused smoother. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Fletcher. Director Smith?
Yes, I don't have the numbers.
Public comment. This is public
Oh,
comment.
sorry.
That's right. We will follow up with you, Mr. Fletcher, on those comments that you just shared. And thank you again. Okay, so at this time, we are going to close this portion out. And with that, I would like to thank Nahid Hussan, the OMB Fiscal and Operations Analyst, and Mr. Ian Smith, our Parks and Recreation Director, and his team for presenting this evening, and any follow-up information that is needed. We are asking everyone to provide it to Ms. Bassnight. And with that, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and we will return in 10 minutes. Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you. Honorable members of council, Chief of Staff Washington, Chief of Staff Parikh, department heads, and members of the public. I am Councilmember Michelle Harley, Finance Committee Vice Chairperson, and I will be chairing this meeting this evening. Calling to order the Finance Committee budget hearing for the Law Department as we are just resuming from our 10-minute break. I would like to start by recognizing members of the Finance Committee that are in attendance this evening by doing roll call, and afterwards I will recognize all other council persons, starting with our Finance Chair, Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Oliver. Councilmember Bracy. Councilmember.
Here.
Noted. Councilmember Field. Oh, he asked to be excused. Councilmember Spadola. Council President Congo.
Here.
Councilmember Mills.
Present.
Councilmember Cabrera.
Present.
Councilmember Fields.
Present.
Councilmember Darby. Councilmember White. And Councilmember McCoy.
Here.
Thank you. First, I would like to inform everyone that public comments will be asked at the end of each department's budget hearing, or this last hearing, and we will look forward to participation from the public, and public comments are limited to 3 minutes. If there's any follow-up information during the budget hearings, Ms. Bassnight will track and follow up on all these requests. The budget hearings are limited due to time constraints, and I ask if all can be mindful and respectful of time. All budget questions should be a fiscal budgetary matter only and will be limited based upon time limitations. I ask that if any of my colleagues have any questions, I'm going to ask that you please raise your hand. And please note the question numbers, because we are only going to be asking questions at the end of the presentation. If any council persons have any budgetary requests that are not part of this budget, those requests will be shared amongst your colleagues and with the administration to see if those could be negotiated within this budget. As we all know, everything cannot be included in a budget. A budget is built on compromise. It is not the intent of this meeting to do budget negotiations. Once all budget hearings are completed, then budget negotiations will occur. I will turn it over to Mr. Bob Goff, our city solicitor, and his team. And this hearing is tentatively slated for 90 minutes. Mr. Goff, if you can please introduce your team.
Great, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to introduce myself.
Excuse me.
Just 1 minute.
Okay, all right, so we want to make sure we acknowledge, turning it over to the financial overview, Mr. Nassan Hussein, the OMB Fiscal and Operations Analyst, and then followed by a question and answer session with Mr. Goff, our solicitor. Okay, so we had to switch it around a little. Okay, so we got it back in order. So this hearing is tentatively, as I stated before, slated for 90 minutes. And I am going to turn it over to Mr. Goff to introduce his team though.
Okay. So again, my name is Bob Goff. I'm the city solicitor. I've been doing this now for 5 years. Someone who's been here a lot longer. Our esteemed deputy city solicitor, Rose Tassoni DiNardo, right next to me to the right. And then back in the lobby, in the audience is Javette Lane, who is our administrative lead here, and she does all the real work, hard work for the budgeting. So my thanks to all of them, and I'm looking forward to explaining our budget for the upcoming year.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Council President, Council Chief of Staff, and honorable members of City Council. On behalf of the Office of Management and Budget, I will present the Law Department's proposed operating budget for FY 2025. Next slide, please. The department's proposed operating budget requests a total of $2.9 million, an increase of almost $239,000 or 8.9%. Next slide, please. Some of the notable changes are highlighted in this slide. As you can see, personal services increased by $195,000 or 8.8%. Most of the increases are from regular salaries and pension contribution, almost a $169,000 increase. The increases are due to the implementation of the city's compensation and classification study. On the MSNE side, the department has an increase of $42,000 or 9.7%. There was a $35,000 increase in professional fees. The legal line went up $15,000 because of the increase in the cost of labor negotiations and real estate transactions. $20,000 was put into the temporary agencies line to address staff vacancies. Lastly, office equipment increased by $2,800. That will conclude my overview of Law Department's proposed budget. I'll be happy to answer any question you might have at this time about the budget. Thank you.
Okay, should I turn it over to Mr. Goff to share the department's vision and priorities?
Great. Well, I'm looking forward to doing that. Good evening, Chairperson Harley, members of council, president, member of the administration, president, and to the watching public. As I've indicated, my deputy city solicitor, Rose Tassoni Donardo, is with me, as well as our administrative supervisor, Javette Lane. So as fiscal year 2025 approaches, the law department has once again maintained its trim budget. As always, this department's budget is about its people and the professional services they provide to the city in a wide variety of areas. As many of you already know, the past year challenged us with long periods of time when we had attorney vacancies. Retaining and attracting qualified attorneys has been a challenge in the past, and especially this past year. As such, it is important for fiscal year 25 and into the future to establish and maintain a stable core of professional legal staff with the knowledge, experience, and local government practice and motivation to guide and protect the city. The implementation of that goal is assisted when staff see themselves as appropriately valued in their profession and by being paid at a competitive market rate, and also when they are provided security and employment for a job well done. And finally, when they are offered training opportunities to allow professional development in specialties that serve the needs of the city. This budget, I believe, acknowledges and serves those aspirations. Our departmental vision is only slightly changed. I added one additional word to it this year, and that is that we're looking to create and have a group of legal professionals with the passion, time, and I put down experience to deal with the city's most important legal issues in an attempt to emphasize how important it is to keep and retain individuals. As always, for our fiscal year 2025, our priorities are to continue to provide effective and efficient legal advice to the city, to aggressively defend and prosecute litigation involving the city, to provide actionable legal service advice in various employment matters, to provide strategic and legal support in negotiations of collective bargaining agreements, to deliver necessary and appropriate legal support to City Council, and of course to meet budget targets. The top three performance measures we have are to continue and meet and exceed stakeholder expectations for effectiveness of legal advice and outcomes, to continue to deliver strategic recommendations, for a comprehensive update of code and charter, and to continue to control expenses of outside counsel.
Thank you, Solicitor Goff. I want to remind all the council members and all those that are going to make public comments to please hold your questions. Please make note of the numbers and the letters for each question so we can be able to identify your questions and answer them if needed. So we're going to get started with our questions. So number one, given the challenges the law department has had over the years to attract and retain attorneys, considering that many attorneys has left the city within less than 3 years, please share the impact to this budget and your department regarding the pending charter change for the Delaware General Assembly. And you can just mention A, B, C, and D as you answer, Solicitor.
Okay, I'll be happy to do so. This amendment or proposed amendment of the charter provides that with the exception of the city solicitor's position, all persons appointed to serve as attorneys in the law department have attained tenure upon 3 years of continuous satisfactory full-time service and may not be removed from their positions except for just cause. It also is amended to provide tenure status to attorneys who have already reached those 3 years of continuous satisfactory full-time service. So my comment is essentially that generally is that the amendment would offer the prospect of job security to those who have not yet reached the 3-year mark and actual security to those who have. As I mentioned earlier, over the past several years, the law department has struggled with recruiting and retaining attorneys. The reasons cited by some departing attorneys have been salary, residency, and job security. While the law department has become more competitive with attorney salaries in very recent years, residency and job security continue to hinder retention and recruitment. The high turnover of staff attorneys and the lengthy time it takes to fill these positions significantly impacts legal services and costs. To meet the continued demand for legal services, the law department must divide the city's legal work between the remaining attorneys and hire outside counsel. In 2023 alone, the department lost 3 of its 9 staff attorneys. Despite repeated advertisement, the positions remained vacant for most of the year. There were months when the department did not receive a single application from an attorney in response to those advertisements. As a result, the law department was forced to hire 2 mostly part-time contract lawyers through a legal temp firm in the fall at the substantial cost of $233,000. As a public sector employer, the city competes directly with the state of Delaware, Newcastle County, and the United States government for Delaware barred attorneys seeking to serve in government. Over the past several years, the majority of attorneys who have left the department took positions with one of these 3 employers. Since 2016, 7 of the 14 attorneys that have left us from the department took positions with the state of Delaware. 1 attorney left for a position in Newcastle County, and 1 attorney left for a position with the United States government. In addition to competing with the state, county, and federal governments, the law department is competing with out-of-state government employers as well. In 2018 and 19, two attorneys left the law department to take positions with other municipalities. We know one of those municipalities provided merit status to the lawyer after just 1 year. Significantly, only 1 attorney left the law department to take a position with a private firm. We are also aware that at least 2 applicants during this time took positions with Newcastle County instead of the city. So while salary is a factor in recruitment and retention, it is not the only factor, and it may not always be the most compelling. Attorneys in the law department are appointed, and as such are afforded no job security. By comparison, the state, county, and federal government, places that have regularly poached this department's current and prospective talent, provide varying levels of opportunity for job security to their career government attorneys. And so, having gained some ground with its salaries, the law department hopes to better compete with other government employers by also offering attorneys who work for us a while and are considering a career with the city and who are performing up to expectations with the job security that comes from not being able to be let go without some cause. This feature will not only help us retain good lawyers, but attract them and help the city as well. Adding to question A, 1A, there are, as a result of efforts at present, no vacant positions. That is relatively now. Question 1B, specify the durancy. Do you wish to ask the questions, Madam Chair? I apologize, I'm asking the question too.
What you're doing is perfect.
Okay. Question 1B, specify the duration of the vacancy. Since 2017, as I've noted previously, there have been 12 vacant attorney positions with the law department struggled to fill. The law department faced the longest period of vacancy in 2023, when 2 of the 3 positions remained vacant for about approximately 10 months. 1B continued. 2017, there was 1 resignation following restructuring of the law department, which took 4 months to fill. 2018, there were 2 resignations, an average of 4 months to fill. 2019, 4 resignations, an average of 4 months to fill. 2020, 1 resignation, which took 8 months to fill. 21 had 1 resignation with 3 months to fill. And 2023 had 3 resignations, average of 8 months to fill. 2 positions remained open, as I've said already, 9 to 10 months. Question 1C. Specify the impact to the department due to the length of vacancy with respect to overtime, consultants, temps, etc. When attorney positions remain vacant for long periods of time, legal services, as I've said, are impacted in the following ways. Attorneys take on more work, and they're not paid for additional time. There are delays in the provision of legal services. In 2023, as I've indicated previously, 2 contract attorneys were hired at the cost of $233,000 for temp service to perform tasks that would normally be performed by in-house lawyers. Also, there is, as a result, or was as a result, additional reliance on outside counsel, especially for litigation. Question 1D. Specify if any impact or challenges with the hiring process due to the residency requirement. The law department competes with the state of Delaware, Newcastle County, and U.S. government and other municipalities to hire Delaware barred attorneys seeking to work in the public sector. Departing attorneys have pointed to 3 reasons for their leaving the law department: salaries, residency, and job security.
Okay, we're going to move on to number 2. Can you share the plan used for $325,000 budgeted in professional fees, for example, consultants, legal fees, and temp agency account groupings? As we can see, it is up $35,000 over the prior year's budget.
So I think that the actual top figure of is really actually $315,000. We researched that and determined that to be the case, but the $35,000 I think is correct. So the comment is the $25,000 for Ethics Commission is pretty static. I think it's changed over the time. So I've been here from 20 to 25 originally, or was it always 25? Always 25. So that's been pretty static, and it is used completely. The $270,000 are for labor negotiations, litigation, and also for things that I think you would call consulting or advice concerning labor matters are also paid for from that, as well as real estate transactions. And the temp agency is $20,000. So that temp agency is related to what I said earlier about the fact that we were short several attorneys this year.
Okay, and now you're going to answer A, B, C, D, and E.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, so 2A, specify vendors, agreement, expiration date, amount, length of agreement, and if planned use for 2025. I'll note that these aren't really contracts in the sense that they don't have terms and lengths and don't have ending dates for them. But we have at-will retentions for McCarter English since 2022. I anticipate we'll continue to use them. Richard Slayton Finger since 2020. I imagine we will be using them as well in the future. They provide great service. Young, Conaway, Stargate, and Taylor is our labor firm, and we use them since 2006, and I imagine we'll continue to do so, although that's always subject to review. Departments, the department may choose to use the same firms as I've indicated, but that will be subject to our ongoing oversight and quality review, to fee negotiations and cost control willingness, and to competition with other firms. And so we also will consider additional vendors if the needs of the city dictate. 2B, specify any vendors that are disadvantaged business entities, and if there are no DBAs, please share a comprehensive plan to attract DBA law firms. This is a question that has been posed to the department at budget hearings for a number of years. But the law department's vendors consist of professional firms, and to the best of our knowledge, the law firms that we use are not specifically, wouldn't fall specifically under the DB definition under our code. The selection of our law firms, because we choose them, because there's things that we aren't always able to do. We aren't have necessarily the agility in certain matters to do that. So they are specialized, and we base that on their expertise, the competitiveness of their rates, and their capacity to often litigate very complex cases. So we also indicate that if a DBE meets the needs of a specific legal matter, we would engage their services. Question 2C, share the process for identifying outside law firms that are inclusive of minorities for diversity. The law department selects its firms based upon their competitiveness of rates and expertise in the matter. And the selection is based upon the factors that I previously noted. Now, I will say that over the course of the last 4 years in looking at this issue, both Ms. Tassoni DiNardo and myself have researched the large firms that we have named already, Young Conaway, Richard Slayton, and McCarter English, all of these. All these firms have programs that are designed to hire and promote into management disadvantaged persons. And so they make an effort to do so. We use those firms, and that is one way in which we do that. I'll note also that just for ourselves, each year, I've attended for 4 straight years the diversity fair for second and third year law students that is available and promoted in Delaware, and have interviewed many folks hoping and trying to reach out to have more participation here.
Thank you.
2D, for legal fees budgeted funding, please specify an amount per each legal category. With regard to labor, negotiations, litigations, and advice, it's $145,000. With regard to real estate transaction, including economic development, we have $25,000. And for complex transactions, $100,000. Question 2E. Justify the $84,000 transferred from legal fees in fiscal year 24 to the temp agency account grouping, considering requesting an increase of $15,000 in legal fees for fiscal year 25 budget. I'll just note, as I've probably already said a couple of times, that the money, specifically this $84,000 transferred in this year, from the legal line to temp agencies lines, was needed to cover the cost of hiring 2 contract lawyers from a temp agency who were needed to bridge the gap due to the law department's 3 long-term vacancies this year. The additional $15,000 requested in fiscal year 25 is needed to help cover the costs associated with labor negotiations and litigation and complex and real estate transactions. 2F, discuss the $25,000 budgeted in consultants regarding legal support for the Ethics Commission. The Ethics Commission retains outside legal counsel to staff the commission and provide legal advice. This allows the commission to obtain independent legal advice and avoids potential conflicts of interest that might arise if the law department were to do that directly. In the last year, in addition to handling these complaints, the Ethics Commission's lawyers developed and conducted video-recorded ethics trainings for city employees, which everyone here, I think, has participated in. Further, he advised the Commission and employees regarding complaints, formal and informal requests for ethics advice and ethics disclosure. And I will say on a personal note that Mr. Larson has been available to me and to my staff freely and liberally when we've needed to consult with him. So his efforts and his firm's efforts are appreciated. Should I move on to question 3?
Let's see, here.
Oh,
spec-
I have the complaint. I didn't really answer the I, so I can do that if you'd like.
Oh, okay.
It says the number of cases submitted to ethics the past 2 years is 4. The number of cases prosecuted were 2. All required action, and there's 1 pending.
Okay, all right, thank you. So we're going to move on to question number 3. All right, so understanding the law department is the official legal representation of the city. Can you share mitigating fiscal budgetary factors in place that best represent and protect the city from a litany of claims, lawsuits, and et cetera?
Certainly. The mitigating fiscal budgetary factors in place that protect the city from legal claims are the hiring and retaining of qualified and hardworking attorneys to work on suitable cases and tasks, the engaging of outside counsel at discounted and competitive rates to handle matters more efficiently and more effectively when that is appropriate, and budgeting funds for professional development and training to enhance the law department's effectiveness in protecting the city from legal claims.
Okay, A and B.
Question 3A, specify if adequate funding budgeted best protects the city regarding any exposure and liability for various claims, et cetera. Yes, we believe that in the current fiscal environment, we have budgeted adequately for fiscal year 2025 to fund the law department's task of protecting the city from liability. Question 3B.
Yes.
Citywide, there's a $1.9 million budgeted across all funds for legal services. Please share your department's role, if any, with regard to oversight. With regard to risk management's insurance claims and legal defense line, the law department provides a recommendation to HR department regarding estimated outside counsel fees. The proposed budget constitutes estimates for pending and anticipated litigation related to employment claims, federal constitutional and statutory claims, and personal injury claims. The remaining lines have been historically delegated to the individual departments and under the law department's oversight. Such oversight includes selecting and approving outside counsel, receiving, reviewing, and approving invoices from the firms engaged in litigation matters, engaging with the departments themselves to assess the effectiveness of the law firms, and drafting and reviewing contracts to retain certain firms for specific departments.
Thank you. I just want to remind the council members and those that are in the public to please keep up with the question numbers. And we get ready to go to question number 4 and for A and B. Solicitor, can you provide the latest update regarding HIDTA grant for the Operations Heat Program for the support of one attorney?
So this position in the U.S. Attorney's Office is for a special assistant U.S. attorney to prosecute Wilmington-related crimes, is wholly funded by an annual grant, which I believe comes from the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, but originally comes from the from the federal government. At any rate, specify if any grant funds are anticipated for 25 fiscal year, and if this is an ongoing and recurring grant to the city, and the answer to both those questions is yes, although I only put one yes there, so it should say yes and yes. Question 4, continued, provide the latest update regarding the HIDTA grant for Operation Heat Program for the support of one attorney, and specify the law department's role and if any success of the program in conjunction with WPD. It's been reported to us that the federal prosecutor is working in this position as funded by Liberty Mid-Atlantic, works hand in hand with Wilmington Police Department and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives and the Drug Enforcement Administration to prosecute gun and drug offenses. All of the cases that the attorney charges are federal criminal charges. The cases are selected because the people involved often have significant criminal histories and are provably involved or suspected to be involved in violence. The attorney benefits the city greatly by spending the additional necessary time to litigate the cases through motions to dismiss, suppression motions, and the like in an effort to ensure the defendants are held accountable for their actions. He also sometimes works with law enforcement to assist in the investigation of the defendants even before the arrest, so that the cases are stronger and more likely to result in significant prison time. B, specify the law department's role and, if any, success of the program in conjunction with WPD. The law department's involved administratively and provides administrative support for the position. An example of success that has been supplied to us is that the Assistant U.S. Attorney prosecuted a Wilmington-based multiple-time felon for drug cases. The defendant had just gotten a break months before when a judge suppressed his gun and dismissed the case. We appealed the ruling. This is noted from the U.S. Attorney. When he was arrested with a gun again, the U.S. Attorney's Office and this particular attorney took the case. The felon, of course, was tried in another suppression motion and a motion to dismiss on Second Amendment grounds. The special U.S. Attorney handled both motions and, despite vigorously contested hearing, won on all fronts. This case will either proceed to trial or to plea. And the U.S. Attorney's Office is happy to report to us that this prosecutor was able to follow up with this multiple-time felon who was arrested again, and to make sure that he spends time in prison.
All right, okay, thank you. And lastly, our last question was asking that you provide a FY 2025 proposed organizational chart, which you have, with the total number of employees, permanent, temporary, contract, or vacancies. And I see that you have that. Did you want to say anything about it?
It is the same organization and setup that it previously is. Last year, I didn't follow the direction of the council and didn't put my picture up there. I was roundly scolded by Ms. Basnight, and I have been forced to place my face on that. So I did so, reluctantly.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I'm going to open up the floor to any council members that have questions. Do we have any council members that have questions? Seeing none, we're going to move to public comment. Is there anyone from the public that have a comment? Okay, all right. So at this time, first of all, thank you for that detailed overview of everything. I know it's very complex trying to get all these answers together and information, but it's just to let everybody know the great work that y'all are doing, right?
Well, thank you very much. I
Yes,
appreciate it.
yes.
We try our best.
Yes, you're doing a great job. So at this time, I would like to also thank Nahid Hussein, the fiscal and OMB fiscal and operations analyst. Thank you, Solicitor Goff, for presenting this evening. And we're going to ask that any follow-up information, we're asking the council members or the public to please follow up with Ms. Basnight. And my closing remarks are going to be that I would like to thank everyone that presented on this evening. Again, Mr. Hussein, Director Smith, Solicitor Goff, and all of our WITN staff, our council staff, and members of the public. I want to mention that the next budget hearings are scheduled for Monday. The date. Monday, April the 22nd at 4:30 p.m. I want to mention that also a project ordinance approving and authorizing the financing of a project for Salesianum School, making certain findings with respect thereto, authorizing the issuance of the City of Wilmington revenue bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $10 million, and authorizing other necessary actions. That is an ordinance that's going to be sponsored by Finance Chair Councilmember Johnson, the Mayor's Office of Economic Development and Budget Hearing, Public Works Department, presentation around our water sewer fund regarding a 6-year financial plan for Public Works, WSF budget hearing. I'm going to remind everyone to please tune in to WITN Channel 22 to watch these meetings. And we're also encouraging you to know that you can watch online at www.witn22.org. And also you can find other budget information available at www.wilmdebudget.org. I will repeat that, www.wilmdebudget.org. At this time, I would like to take a motion to adjourn. So moved.
So moved. Second.
Second. All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. You too.